After watching this video, you'll be able to sew your zipper fly easily without any struggles. Welcome back to all returning subscribers, and if this is your first time here, welcome and feel free to hit on the subscribe button as you will find lots of useful content here. Now let's get straight into the tutorial. So this is my trouser that I've already joined together. I left an opening. This is the front part of the trouser. I left an opening where I'll be installing the zipper. Now the length of this opening is about 7 inches. I also cut out those 2 strips which I'll be using to install my zipper. Now this one measures about 9 inches and 2 inches width. You can see the shape. So I just cut this out, and I also cut out this one 9 inches by 5 inches. So I'll be using this to install my zipper. Now for this part, you can either choose to weave round the edge, round this curved edge here. You can just weave round it, or you can also use a bias tape to finish off the edge. So I'll be using this bias tape to finish off the edge. Now let's go to the sewing machine where we'll be doing all the work. Now I just want to pipe around the curved edge. So I've turned it and you can see how it is. So now I'll just bring back my trouser. This is the right part. Now I'll be sewing this down to the left side of my trouser. Can you see? I'm just going to push this aside. I'll be sewing it down on the left side of my trouser. Now I'll place it this way. I'm making sure that there is some excess here. Now this is where I made my tightening. This is the 7 inches mark where I made my tightening. Now I'm going to bring this down a little bit, let's say between 0.5 inches to 0.75 inches. You just want to bring it down a little bit so there will be excess below it. Now I'll be sewing this down with 1/2 inch sewing allowance all the way to the end. Now I just want to pin it down so it doesn't move. Then I can start sewing. I'm marking my 1/2 inch. So now that I've joined it, I just want to trim off some of the allowances to reduce the bulk because I'll be top stitching it. So I want to reduce the bulk inside. Now I'll be top stitching it, making sure my seam allowance is facing this way, and I'll run a stitch down. So I've top stitched it. This is what the inside looks like, and this is the outside. We still have this part free. We're just working on only this part. So the next thing I want to do is to attach my zipper. I'll be working with this zipper. This is a short zipper. This is what I'll be using. So to fix the zipper, now this is where we have the head. This is the right side. I'm going to turn it over this way. Can you see? This is the right side. I'll turn it over this way and I'll be sewing it down. Now I'm not sewing on this part, I'm sewing on this other part. Just watch. I'm going to sew it down this way, so when we flip over, we will still have here free to attach to this part. Hope you understand. So I'm going to sew it down to the end. Now one thing you should take note of is this this iron part we have here. Now you want to make sure that iron part is below the 7 inch stitch, and you're going to see why later, but just make sure it's a little bit below it. You can see I have it below the 7 inch mark, so you just want to make sure it's below the 7 inch mark. Now I'll be sewing down my zipper. I'll just go in a little bit from this point. I'll go in by 1/2 inch. You can go in by 1/2 inch to 0.75 inch. Then you sew down the zipper. so I'll just go in by 1/2 inch. I think I'm going to pin this down so it doesn't move. I just want to pin down my zipper to make sure it doesn't move. Alright, now I can start sewing it down. Now sometimes it can be difficult sewing from the beginning part because of the zipper head. So what I do most times is I just come down and I start sewing. I leave that part first, then I sew. Now after I've secured this part, I'll open up the zipper so I can have room to sew down the beginning parts. So now I'll just go back and sew from the top so it is attached. Now I can zip this back up. So we fixed the zipper to one part of the trouser, and this part is still free, you can see. So what I want to do next, I'll be attaching the zipper to this other part of the trouser, sewing it down on 1/2 inch allowance. Now the reason I'm using 1/2 inch is because that's the allowance I kept when cutting my trouser. So if you have above 1 inch allowance, make sure you sew on the allowance you kept. I kept an allowance of 1/2 inch for my joining. That's why I'm using 1/2 inch to sew down my zipper. So please take note of that. So for this part, I just want to turn over to the wrong side to enable me sew it. So I'll turn over to the wrong side and I'll attach my zipper. Now I want to make sure the top part is matched up, so I don't have one side longer than the other. So I'm just going to place it this way. I'm going to make sure that my top matches up. Then I will pin it down. Just like this. Now I'll go back and sew it down. Now you can also pin down at different points just to make it easier. So I've attached it to this part, and this is what it's looking like. You can see this part will fold in like this to cover up the zipper. It's going to fold in this way to conceal the zipper, because the zipper is not meant to be visible. So it's going to fold in this way. So the next thing I want to do is to sew down that curve mark for our zipper fly to secure it down. So I just want to pin this. I'm going to arrange this and pin it down to make the process easy and to make sure that there are no folds, that everything is smooth by the time we're done. So I'm just arranging everything. Just going to arrange it carefully. Making sure everything is smooth. So I've pinned it. You can see that our zipper is concealed. This is how it's meant to be. If you look at the inside, this is the way it is. So take note of it. Now I want to make the curved stitch that we have on the zipper fly. So I'm just going to mark this. Now I'll be marking it where the 7-inch stopped, the 7-inch notch. That's where I'm going to end it. And this is the reason why I said when fixing your zipper, make sure that the iron part is below the 7-inch mark, because if it is at the 7-inch mark, when you're trying to sew down this curve, it will make the process difficult. So I'm just marking it. You can see the curve. I just marked the curve. Now I'm going to run a stitch on this curve. Now note that this part is here, so when we sew it down, it will be attached to the trouser. Just making sure I remove the back part so it doesn't get caught. So now I can take out my pins. You can see this is what we have currently, and we are almost done. The zipper fly is actually very easy to install. This is our zipper inside, and this is it. Now the next thing we want to do, remember this piece we cut earlier? We're going to bring in this piece now. Now I'll be folding this over. I'll be folding it this way, and I'll close it up with 1/2 inch sewing allowance just on this part. I'll sew it down with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'm going to flip this over this way, and I will press it. I'll press it with steam to make it very flat. For the trouser, I'll also press this with steam to give it a flat and clean look. I'm done pressing it. You can see how it looks. I've also pressed this part. You can see it's very flat now. The next thing I want to do, I'll be turning over to the wrong side, just like this. Now I'm going to place it this way. This is the part that we turned over. It's concealed, so I'll place it this way. Now this part is supposed to cover this other part, so you want to make sure it's covering. So I'll place it this way, and I will sew it down. So now I'll just use my pin to secure this part so it doesn't move. And I will attach it. This is how it is. Now I'm going to stitch right here. I'm just going to make a stitch right here to secure both parts so they won't be separate. To hold both parts together, I'm just going to run a stitch. Alright, now that we've secured it, this is what we have. And that is how to fix your zipper fly. You can see how simple and how easy it is. Now this part is going to be weaved later. That's if you didn't weave before starting the process. This is the inside of our trouser. This is our zipper fly, and this is the outside of our trouser. So guys, this is how to fix your zipper fly. Now this excess is here. They will be removed later. You can see the reason why I cut it longer was just so I don't have any issues later on. It's always better to have excess than to have shortage. That's why I cut my length longer than the 7 inches. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. If this video was helpful to you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that already, as I always share helpful videos here. Till we see you again. Bye.